Hello, and welcome to the Ground Jewels. My name is James Dixon.
And I'm delighted you've joined us again this week. Or maybe it's not again this week. Maybe you're joining us for the very first time. If so, welcome. Thank you for finding us. Thank you for giving us a try. And we're a podcast that likes to talk about special sporting venues. And we've got a really good one for you this week. We have Toby Marriott from Cricket District, the guys behind That's So Village, some of the best cricket content creators out there at the moment on YouTube and other platforms. And he's going to be talking about a really interesting experience he had called Cricket on Ice, which is played at the St Moritz Cricket Club in Switzerland. So a little bit different from your normal sort of, stereotypical English village cricket experience. But it's not only a beautiful place to play cricket on a frozen lake in Switzerland and a quirky place to play cricket, but it speaks to Toby's passion for accessibility and inclusion in cricket and taking cricket beyond its traditional strongholds and to whoever and wherever in the world there are cricket fans and prospective cricket players. We talk about the Cricket on Ice Festival. We talk about some other innovative developments in the game. We talk a little bit about the European Cricket League, what's happening in America with cricket. It's a really nice, positive chat with, like I said, one of the best cricket content creators around at the moment. As regular fans know, we often like to talk a little bit of stadium news. And one thing jumped out to me this week, and that is that as of next season, away fans are going to be allowed back into the Old Firm games. Rangers and Celtic have agreed to give each other a 5% allocation for the Old Firm games next season. I think it's broadly positive. I think football's always better when there's away supporters there. We know the history between those two great sides. We've covered it in depth in our archive, actually, with Martin Ramsey talking about Ibrox and talking about so eloquently about the Old Firm. So if you do want to learn more about that, go and check out the Martin Ramsey episode from a couple of months back on Ibrox. But yeah, good news. Hopefully the games pass off without too much incident next year, because having those away supporters back in the stadiums, back in those Old Firm matches, can only enhance the atmosphere, and I think that is great. But now let's go and hear from Toby.
Today we're joined by Toby Marriott from Cricket District. Cricket District are some of the best cricket content creators around at the moment. You may be familiar with their weekly thread of That's So Village, which highlights the weird and wonderful world of village cricket each Monday during the cricket season. But I wanted to talk to Toby because one of his latest videos caught my eye. Toby, welcome to the Ground Jewels.
Thank you for having me on the podcast, James. Appreciate it.
Today we're going to be talking about the St Moritz Cricket Club in Switzerland, which may not be the first place that springs to mind when people are thinking of Leather on Willow. Why is this cricket club, in your estimation, a ground jewel?
Well, it's unique. It's a fantastic place to play cricket. It's incredibly inclusive and social, and a lot of fun. I think for me, it shows how cricket can be one of the most social and inclusive sports in the world. Anyone can play, no matter your background or ability, and you can play pretty much anywhere as long as you've got a ball and a bat. So cricket on ice, personifies what the sport should be. And I love going there. We've been a couple of times now, and it's been a great experience every time.
So this is the Cricket on Ice Festival, which the St Moritz Cricket Club hosts. Describe it. I mean, obviously visually people can go to your video, they can find it on YouTube and take a look at it, but for people who are listening and hearing about this for the first time, practically, how do you play cricket on ice?
It's quite challenging because it is a frozen lake. So in St Moritz there is a very large lake where it freezes over every winter, and it's hosted numerous events such as polo and horse racing. And I think back in 1987 or 1988, a chap called Anthony Bouchier, who actually founded what is now Cricinfo, was working for a company called IMG, and he saw the polo going on and saw the horse racing and thought, why don't they play cricket here? So they borrowed a mat from a local school, rolled it out, created a wicket and built cricket on ice. I think the first game was between the local school and him and his friends. And it's grown into an international tournament with now, I think, 6 to 8 teams competing each year. They test whether the ice is deep enough every morning, because you've got a layer of ice and then you've got a layer of snow that's packed on top of it. So whilst it might sound quite unnerving playing cricket on a frozen lake, it's actually pretty safe and you don't slip around too much because there's plenty of snow on top. So they roll out a wicket. You play with a slightly harder version of an Incredible, and you can wear as much or as little protective equipment as you like.
Oh, so that, yeah, I suppose that's where you're talking about becoming inclusive, because one of the big barriers I guess we're finding as sort of in village cricket is getting young people into the game because of the cost of the equipment. So that's great. And I know from the video you sort of had like the nightmare start. You go out all the way to Switzerland, you take guard. I don't know if you're lining it up against one of the mountains or how you take guard on a lake, and you get the worst thing that any batsman ever gets, a golden duck. How did you feel at that moment? Not great?
I felt very silly at that point, yeah. I'll get my excuse out of the way earlier. I got back from South Africa about 48 hours earlier from a trip to the SA20. So it wasn't in great shape to face up to cricket on ice. And the ball bounced a bit more than I thought it would, popped off my glove and I got caught at slip. So it felt very silly. Add to that I had a GoPro on my helmet. Wasn't the best start, but thankfully I wasn't alone. Thankfully, Jack, who runs Cricket District with me, came out as well, and he managed to get quite a few runs. So we managed to get plenty of content on the GoPro, and we produced 2 really nice videos out of it. We produced an episode of our Beautiful Cricket Ground series, and we also produced an episode of what it's like to bat on cricket on ice, which is a nice GoPro compilation of some of our best batting. Mainly featuring Jack, but I played a few in the last innings.
That's absolutely fair enough. And you do have this wonderful series called Beautiful Cricket Grounds. And I think, the variety of cricket grounds that you're able to showcase on there, and we're not just talking about UK or European cricket grounds. I guess it shows, well, I'm going to go to variety again, but the sheer variety of places where cricket can be played and cricket can be beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Our Beautiful Cricket Ground series, that was the aim, really, to showcase how cricket can be played anywhere, and in many cases, spectacular settings. We've been fortunate to travel a lot with our work. Both prior to Cricket District, I've worked as a kind of content creator in the sport for a while, and managed to get out to New Zealand and discover the beauty of Queenstown Cricket Club over there, and then closer to home, places like Linton and Lynmouth, Wormsley, Arundel, all of these amazing places where cricket is played. I think an important part to note as well that often these places are often very affluent areas, and something that we're very keen on is making cricket a bit more accessible. So whilst that series might be dedicated to the most picturesque cricket grounds in the world, we're also aware that there are some not so picturesque cricket grounds where people still are passionate about the game, and where accessibility to the sport needs to be improved. Like you said, with those typical barriers for entry with expensive equipment and that kind of thing. So yeah, our mission is really to try and grow the game through telling interesting stories, making beautiful content, and showcasing the game that we love at its best.
And I think you do a great job of that. We had Charles Dagnall on the show probably a few months ago now, and one of the things that he was talking about an NFL stadium, because that's all he really cares about. He loves his NFL, but we managed to convince him for a few minutes to talk about the Maidans in Mumbai, because he was out there for the women's Test series. And you do not have to, St Moritz has this wonderful aspect. Beautiful mountains, you know why people go there. You know why it's one of the most luxurious resorts in all of Switzerland. It's evident just by looking at it. Cricket can be just as interesting, just as beautiful in a strip of land that's wedged between two incredibly busy roads.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's why I maintain that it's the most social team sport in the world, and I think there's a beauty in that. The fact that you can join your local club, play at your local village green, score no runs, take no wickets, still go for a pint afterwards and make some new friends. There aren't many sports where you can still have a decent day out like that. So I think, the beauty of the game is very much in the way it's played and the way it brings people together, just as much as where it's played and the spectacular stadiums and such.
I agree, but I have a really, really important question. What is a Swiss cricket tea like?
Different. I think to be fair, we had a delicious lunch one day where we had, I think we might have had carbonara, lovely. Quite filling. And then the next day we had beans and veg. It's pretty cold, so you want something like that. You want something pretty chunky, pretty heartwarming to get stuck into. So a bit different to your typical cricket tea over here in the UK. But it was great. We were very well looked after. The food was great. The drinks were great. And the people who play it are incredibly friendly. Obviously, we both know that cricket is a silly sport at the best of times, even at the professional level. And cricket on ice certainly doesn't take itself too seriously. We're aware of how ridiculous it is to be playing a sport on a frozen lake, standing there in the freezing cold, trying to whack a ball everywhere. So no one takes it too seriously. Everyone has fun, and it's a great event to be a part of.
I don't know. It's making me think of, and I'm not sure. I don't know if you're familiar with the book, but are you familiar with Penguins Stopped Play by Harry Thompson?
I am. Yeah.
I think it's possibly one of it's certainly my favourite book. Certainly my favourite sports book. Possibly my favourite book. One of the best sports books of all time. The conceit of that book is this team, the Captain Scott 11, this sort of one of these weird and wonderful, cobbled together sort of amateur, fairly posh groups is trying to play a game of cricket on every continent. And they including Antarctica, which is where the Penguins bit came in. It's a fantastic book for anyone who wants to read it. But did you? Yeah,
cricket lends itself to interesting storytelling because it is played all over the world, and a lot of people don't realise that. It's growing across Europe, it's growing in South America, in places like Brazil, even in the Far East, places like China, Thailand, Vietnam. There are lots of cricket teams popping up. And people realizing that it can be played pretty much anywhere. So naturally that opens itself up to storytelling. And that's what we've always been about at Cricket District. We're more than happy for mainstream media, the likes of Cricinfo, Wisden, Cricketer Magazine, BBC, TMS, all very happy for them to cover the professional side of the game. But we felt there was a lack of coverage for the recreational side of things and telling the stories that matter to amateur cricketers. So we saw a great opportunity there to be creative in the sport that we loved and tell interesting stories and make cool videos. And thankfully people seem to really enjoy them. And then once we've made a few, we get more invitations to places like Switzerland. We're off to New York tomorrow to play in an indoor cricket tournament. There are all sorts of great opportunities coming our way now that we've put a bit of positive content out there about cricket.
I was going to go to New York actually, and not with indoor cricket, but obviously when you're talking about expanding the game, that feels quite an obvious place, because in a couple of months' time we're going to be having a T20 World Cup, which is going to be co-hosted by America. There's going to be a stadium in New York, and they're going to get the honour of hosting, an India-Pakistan match. This obviously would be a better question after you've been to New York, but from everything you know about the world of cricket, how do you think America is going to take to that event and T20 cricket in general?
My honest answer is I have absolutely no idea. I'm aware there's a massive South Asian population who love their cricket, who live in America, and as we've seen with Major League Cricket, they will travel as far as, the middle of nowhere, really, near Dallas, Texas, to go and watch Major League. So if they're going to go watch that, you think they're going to be even more excited to come and watch India v Pakistan. So I think the question really is, what do, American sports fans make of cricket? Can they be converted from watching baseball and NFL and NBA to watching a bit of cricket? And I think that comes down to the way the tournament's been marketed. It's been marketed pretty well so far. There was a couple of cool launch videos and making it a more, I suppose, watchable and understandable sport and getting more people into it. But there's a lot of investment going into cricket in the US. A lot of wealthy entrepreneurs and tech investors and that kind of thing getting into cricket. So I can definitely see it taking off over there, and we'd love to be involved in the growth of the game over there as well.
It'd be fantastic. It'd be fascinating to see, and also great for another ICC event to go back to the West Indies, because it hasn't been an ICC event there since, I think, 2007. I could be. I'm pulling that out of the air. I hope I'm right.
You are.
Good. Yeah. But these events are always good for the development of the game and development of facilities in these places, and hopefully we have a really great World Cup. I know you've been everywhere around the world, really. You're talking about South Africa, New Zealand, etc. Where are some of the other places that sort of stand out to you in some sort of the content that you've created? Maybe they're standing out particularly for the type of ground they are. Maybe they're standing out for the passion. Where's been quite special for you?
A few places pop to mind. The first one would be Cartama Oval in Malaga, Spain, where the European Cricket League is currently taking place. If you're a cricket fan, I'm sure anyone listening to this would have seen some viral content from the European Cricket League. It's a brilliant organisation, brilliant setup, and they play a lot of their games in Cartama, and some great people over there who look after the facilities really well and maintain a fantastic ground. And that's a great example of the growth of the game. I suppose closer to home, probably my favourite cricket ground in the world is Linton and Lynmouth in North Devon, with a spectacular mountain backdrop and the ocean, goats regularly walking across the field in the middle of this beautiful valley. So that's probably my favourite one, also because it's a village cricket ground and I play village cricket. And then I guess in terms of like spectacular backdrops, Dharamshala in India has to be right up there for me, and I'm sure it is on most cricket fans' bucket list. I'm sure there are a lot of England fans travelling there for the 5th Test. That's a pretty special one as well.
Adam Gilchrist says that's his favourite cricket ground in the world. And he's obviously a fine judge of most things with cricket. But I think the European Cricket League, for people who don't know about it, is incredibly interesting. All my cricket WhatsApp groups just ping when something happens in there, and is it on Viaplay or it's there's a little bit of broadcast stuff around it as well, and sometimes it is ridiculous, some of but then you get those moments, and I guess it's a bit like village cricket as well. If you looked at it in its entirety, you'd go, but you have those moments. There's a couple of moments when you're playing cricket, I don't know if you've had them, where for me it's like maybe hitting a really long six or something like that, and knowing at that moment someone else could have played that shot as well as me, but no one else could have played it better. And sometimes I get that when watching the European Cricket League. You're just seeing people enjoying their sport and taking it to a wider audience, but just having those lovely little personal moments of success.
Yeah, absolutely. Well put. From the silly to the sublime, European cricket has got it all, really. And I think a lot of people don't quite realise how well organised it is. But actually, we went over there last year. We made a video for our YouTube channel. There are some amazing people behind the scenes, from the camera operators, the broadcasters, the commentators. They're all just very passionate about the sport and want to see it grow and want to give more people opportunities to play and represent their country in many ways. So it's a fantastic organisation. I'd recommend anyone tuning in or trying to get over there and watch some cricket.
And is there a way, because obviously you've seen lots of clubs go to streaming, Frogbox and all of that sort of stuff is very prevalent. But the only sort of innovation that I'm sort of aware of is at the professional level in terms of, is there a way for something a little bit more fun, a little bit more recreational, that takes itself, is a little bit less maybe pure cricket, or maybe that's the wrong term, but we haven't kind of seen these innovations that we've had in sort of cricket media influence the way cricket's played. It's still very much set up as in a traditional village format. Do you think there could be a future where things are a little bit different in this country in terms of how cricket is organised?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had a really interesting conversation yesterday with someone who's been having some, I probably can't say too much, but is talking to the ECB about a shorter format, essentially 6-a-side, and essentially it could be a really cool way of getting more people into the game. I guess it's a simpler format. It's an easier one to understand. It's very high entertainment, and you could, marry that cricket product with some entertainment on the side and great food stalls and this kind of thing, and it could be a kind of touring circus of cricket. So I definitely see a gap there for creative formats in the sport. I think when you first tell someone you play cricket, they have an instant reaction. They often think it's pretty boring and, oh, you just stand in a field all day. And yeah, there's beauty in that. And we all like playing cricket every Saturday for for the whole day and getting away from the world. But I do think if we're really going to grow the game and make it more accessible, we need to get youngsters into it. I need to get them playing fun formats, and then they can see if they're interested in the longer stuff.
It's a blessing and a curse, isn't it? Because sometimes exactly what you need is 8 or 9 hours out of the house, standing in a field, chatting with your mates, having a few sandwiches, and then other times you're like, it's my whole day just to play cricket, and it's a frustratingly beautiful sport. Let's talk a little bit about That's So Village, because this is how I first became aware of you, and genuinely, it's the only thing that's left that is fun on Twitter. It's probably the reason why I'm still on Twitter, and it just brightens my day every month. I know there's thousands of other people like me who are waiting for you to post that thread, to kick it off. And all you ask is, what's the most village thing that happened in your game this weekend? I think it's one of the most joyous things on social media. But do you, how did you stumble across that as such a great question and great format? And what are some of the things that you remember most that have come in on that hashtag? Gosh,
so many things every week. You think you've seen it all when it comes to cricket, and then you see the replies to that tweet every Monday, and it still surprises you. I guess I can't even remember when I decided to first start tweeting that. I think we kind of posted a variation of it on Cricket District. What was the best thing, or who took the most wickets in your team this weekend. But as soon as we started saying what's the most village thing, it just became such a popular thing. And I suppose it's positive, it's entertaining, and Twitter and other social networks are often full of negativity. So actually, to offer people a bit of fun on a Monday morning when they're on their way to work, and to chat about their weekend's cricket is a great opportunity to spread a bit of positivity, I suppose. But I can't, to be honest, I can't remember a single one in particular. I just know that every time we put it out, it gets hundreds of replies.
There's some of the things I like the stories of, like, fathers and sons, or even grandfathers and sons sort of playing together. That's always nice. There's a sequence of a dropped catch and then an amazing world-class slip catch, which I think is one of the finest thing that's ever been captured to film, and it should be stuck up in a museum somewhere. I submitted one once. I don't think it got picked, but a lot of people because you've obviously got people sort of upvoting it in the sort of community. Our mower broke down. No, it wasn't the mower broke down. Our outfield wasn't cut. And so we had literally everybody from the team bringing their mowers from home, and everyone sort of having to mow the outfield themselves before the game to get the game on, which is just it's very village.
Amazing. There aren't many sports where that kind of thing happens. It's it's great, and that's why, again, village cricket is such a unique sport, isn't it? Because we don't take ourselves too seriously, but we do commit an entire day to it every weekend. Yeah. Our precious free time, just for silly moments like that, and it brings people together.
I think this will go out for at the start of the English domestic season, which is in April. And obviously most cricketers complain about being too in April, which obviously you won't do because you're not on a frozen lake. Is there anything you're particularly looking forward to this season, either on a personal level for the channel, or in terms of the domestic or international game?
Yeah, sure. On a personal level, can't wait to get back to playing at my local village club. We're a small little village in East Sussex, but I absolutely love playing there. A lot of friends who travel down from London and elsewhere to play, and it's nice to catch up with them. And then from a business perspective, it's a really exciting stage for us. You probably see behind me, this is our brand new Cricket District office / studio. We've got 3 of us now, myself, Jack and Jacob, who's busy doing some cool graphic design work behind me. And we're really looking forward to the season ahead. We've got some cool opportunities to make videos and connect with our community and cover the game in a unique way. So lots of cool stuff coming up for us with the World Cup, and a few other opportunities closer to home, and just excited to see what it brings, really. But I suppose most excited about hopefully the weather clearing up and seeing a bit more sunshine.
We can all agree on that. I wish you guys the absolute best. I think what you're doing is fantastic, putting the best of cricket forward for people to consume and enjoy. And, you guys are some of my favourite content creators, and I cannot wait for that hashtag to start again in April. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, James. Really appreciate your support, mate. Thanks for having me on.
What a lovely little chat we had there with Toby. Great to learn more about cricket on ice. Very sorry that he went all the way to Switzerland and got a golden duck, but I think he took it. I think he took it well. But as it's the start of cricket season, and we have a lot of new listeners after the past couple of months, which is great, I thought it might be a good chance to kind of delve back into the archive and showcase and surface some of the really interesting cricket chats that we've had previously. The first person you're going to hear from is Gary Barwell. He is the head groundsman at Edgbaston, and Gary's excellent value for money. Then we'll hear from Charles Dagnall, the former Warwickshire and Leicestershire bowler, now obviously a member of the Test Match Special Crew, but we'll have him talking a little bit about his boyhood love of Lancashire and Old Trafford. And finally, we'll hear from the journalist Annie Chave. Well, Annie's fantastic. She's the editor of County Cricket Matters, a really interesting magazine, and she's sort of part journalist, part campaigner for county cricket. Well, she has a wonderful episode in our archive about Taunton, the home of Somerset. But the clip you're going to hear her talk about, but the clip you're going to hear from her is in praise of festival weeks and festival cricket. But first, Gary.
When you get a bit of a chance, and then maybe you don't get a chance, but a little bit of downtime, and maybe it's a county championship game, is there a particular area of the ground you like to view the game from, or are you under orders to say that you never sneak a glimpse?
No, I generally hide in my office. No, we sit in the tunnel with the boys. I'm not a great watcher of the pitches I produce, if I'm being really honest, because I'm too critical. One ball is a millimetre out and I'm like a cat on a hot tin roof. But there is times where something's good and something's a bit special, or, I saw Virat Kohli score 149 here, batting with the tail against England. I watched Brendan McCullum hit 156 in a T20, and I came out of my office at about 20, it was 20 not out, and watched the rest of it. Josh Butler and who was with him? Abdul Rashid, I think, when England scored 409 in 15. They're the things you can. One thing I'm quite good at, I'm really critical of what I do. I'm the worst critic of myself. So if anybody wants to criticise me, you can't make it any worse than me. So I'm quite bad. But one thing I'm quite good at, I'm great at reflecting. So although I'm critical, I will happily go back and reflect and, go, do you know what? That was pretty special, that was. Or the nicest feeling in the world for me as a groundsman, and everybody's enjoying the day, is if Johnny Bairstow and Joe Root scored 370 odd to beat India the other year. I think England were 2 down. There's no greater feeling than when you're at two things. One, when you're out in the middle and Johnny Bairstow is one of the nicest guys in the world, let alone in cricket, comes past and just thanks you to your face by your name and goes, Gary, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Well, I'm not like, mate, you don't need to thank me. You've just been unbelievable. But when you're walking and the crowd sort of disperses, it's about an hour and a half after the game. There's still people milling around, but a few TVs and stuff. We have to walk across the ground to the Colts ground car park, which is the other side to where our tunnel is. And you're walking back, and you can honestly, if it's gone really well and it's gone well, there's no greater feeling than going back to your car, thinking, do you know what? We're absolutely, you're thanking your team and very proud. You've got half the press in the world that will be critical of the pitch on one other given day. you think, you know what, just smash that. This place looks amazing. You get back to your car and you drive probably a couple of miles or even home. I'm 40 minutes to home. And all the way home, all you're thinking is, you know what, I'm so proud of my team and what we've achieved today. And that's enough, and probably it's sort of answering your question. I don't watch a lot.
So that was my support of Lancashire and one of the reasons why I loved Old Trafford. Remember the ground itself, the great pavilion that they used to have there.
Was that side on?
Side on.
Yeah.
And so they used to have over on the far side of the ground near the Warwick Road station, they used to have these two light meters, the only ground in the country that used to have these light meters that were on the double-tiered stand in the middle of them. And they were almost like these clocks, half clocks. And they were pointing at two different areas of the ground, the sensors. I didn't know this at the time. I just thought they were clocks that were really weird. And they would tell you how good or bad the light were. They were the first sort of light meters at grounds. So they had the old drawstring scoreboard over near the ladies' stand, which if you're looking if you're looking straight at the pavilion from the middle, it used to be on the left-hand side, and then there was another scoreboard.
I've got to stop you there, Charles.
Right.
Ladies' stand, as in like
ladies' stand.
So, as in like segregation, or was that just a historic thing?
No, it was just sort of historic. I don't know. It was a ladies' stand. That's what they always used to call it. And it was on the left of the pavilions. The members would go on the right, and maybe historically it did have sort of segregation. I don't know, but that's what it was always known as. So that was on the left of the pavilion, and then you had on at either end behind you had the press boxes and the executive boxes kind of thing, and then you had the side was the double tiered stand, and so I got to go and watch Lancashire sporadically, the odd day here and there. I remember watching Wasim bowl Yorkshire out on the last day of a Roses game as a kid, bowling round the wicket, and he was swinging the ball at will, and it was just a mesmeric piece of bowling. It was I was just glued. I had sort of situated myself as close to behind the bowler's arm as I possibly could be.
More of Somerset's matches aren't played outside of Taunton because it's one of the counties that doesn't particularly use outgrounds a lot, and they're my sort of passion when it comes to cricket. I love Scarborough and York and Chesterfield and Southport and places like that where when the cricket turns up, or St Helens as well and Colwyn, but when the cricket turns up for a week and everyone makes a real effort to go, those festival weeks I just think are so special.
I think they're glorious. I'm actually going to Southport this year. I'm very excited about that. So I went to go to Cheltenham, and I went to Chesterfield last year. So, yeah, I think they're wonderful, and yes, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier about Taunton being for the Southwest. I think it is a real shame that there's not a little bit more in, say, Devon, or they used to play in Bath or Weston-super-Mare. What a shame that doesn't happen anymore. But I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it. I think this is where the whole of cricket has been so poorly managed over the last. English cricket has been so poorly managed, certainly over the last 10 years, where priorities have been put into things like the 100 rather than really engaging people with these wonderful, wonderful festival cricket, because it's a absolute, talk about ground jewels. I mean, they are the ground jewels of cricket. You cannot have a better day than going to, I don't know, say Cheltenham and wandering around beautiful ground with beer tents and bookstalls and lovely food and watching cricket and lots of people chattering away. It's just wonderful. It's absolutely beautiful. So I think it's a real blind spot. But of course, the trouble is, if you cut down the number of championship games that you play, which they're still trying to do now. So we'll be going from 14 at one point to 10. You as a business, the county needs to play their home games at home. Otherwise, they're just not. What's the point of having the home game? What's the point of having the ground? And that's where your revenue comes in. So you need to have them at home, and it costs them an awful lot to put the festival games on. This is where money should be funneled into trying to make these things more appealing for the counties to put on, because it's a really, really wonderful way of exciting people.
Thank you again to Gary, Charles and Annie. And rest assured, we will have more cricket for you later in the summer. Next week is going to be Uli Hess. He is an author, and as you can probably guess, he's a German author. And he's going to be talking about Borussia Dortmund's Westfalenstadion. Hope my GCSE German was up to that pronunciation there. It's 50 years since Dortmund built the Westfalenstadion for the 1974 World Cup, and obviously one of the great terraces in world football with the black and yellow. We talked to him about the yellow wall. We talked to him about German fan culture. We talked about the history of the stadium, their Champions League success. It's a really, really interesting podcast, and he's a fantastically knowledgeable guest. So that will be a really nice one for next week. All the best. Bye.